Go ahead. Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome.
So, Doc, I must tell you, 6 p.m., especially in Johannesburg, is usually still rush hour traffic, people getting home from work.
Okay.
So, yeah, this time shift can be a little bit uncomfortable for some, but,
Yeah.
we really do appreciate those that are already in the call, and hopefully others may be joining us from their cars by just listening to us. But yeah, Joburg rush hour usually starts from about 4:30 to about 7:30. I mean, some people really have a long commute to work.
Okay.
So yeah. So welcome everyone once again. As you're joining us, it is our culture, our tradition that we like to know where you're joining us from. So if you may please just type into the chat box the city and country you are joining us from, that would be fantastic. And Doc, are you going to spotlight the panel so that we can kick it off?
Yes, let's do that. Thank you. Okay, thank you guys very much for joining us. This is going to be our panel today that's going to help us. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Dr. Dieter. I'm a board certified internist and as well as pediatrician. I'll be giving a presentation today. And above me is Dr. Catherine, our host. And then Dr. Esther Ngare at the top left-hand corner is a family medicine physician and a native of Eastern Africa, my Kenyan sister. Be helping us with showing testimonies and answering some questions. And then we have Keith Newsom. Keith is based in Pensacola, Florida. And Keith will be sharing his testimony today on the science we're going to be talking about, what life was before and what life was after. So, welcome to my panelists. Thank you guys for assisting me with this. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to Dr. Catherine.
Thank you, Doc. Good evening, everyone. And once again, welcome to those of you who have been trickling in after I spoke. So I am a trained biomedical scientist. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa, and it is my greatest honor and privilege to bring you this episode of our Reclaim Your Health sessions. By way of housekeeping rules, what we're going to do is we will allow Dr. Dieter to do his presentation. And as he is going through, if you come up with questions that you have, please feel free to pop them in the chat. In the end, we will be able to address those questions as he is going along, because there is several doctors, amazing doctors in this room tonight with us. Not everyone is on the panel, so there will be specialist medical doctors that will be able to take care of your questions as we are going along with Dr. Dieter. What I do want to put across as a disclaimer up front is what we are going to talk about this evening. Our objective is to share scientifically proven knowledge and information about the basics of metabolic health. What we are talking about is not in any way in opposition of anything that the health systems in whatever country you may be residing in are promoting. So I do not want you to leave this session this evening saying or thinking to yourself that, hey, those doctors in there said I must go do this or that or the other with whatever it is that I may be dealing with. So that is very, very important to put up front. So the Reclaim Your Health mission is a mission, and we are really trying to do differently in terms of sharing information and knowledge about non-communicable illnesses or non-communicable diseases, with the hope that this knowledge is going to empower people wherever they are in the world to make different choices about their lives and to hopefully be able to get more control over this horrific illnesses that are really, really running rampage in our societies today. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Dieter. He is going to give us his presentation. It will take about 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes. At the end of that, there will be a session by Dr. Esther. At the end of Dr. Esther's session, please feel free to leave the meeting if you are under time pressure, but we do encourage that people hang out until the very end, because there are questions that will come up from the audience that may be of great help to you. So once again, welcome everyone. And I see Dr. Natasha is on video as well. She's one of our amazing specialist doctors that are going to be helping us with questions and answers in the chat as Dr. Dieter goes along. So over to you, Doc. We are excited once again to be here today, and we are very grateful and thank God and look forward to everything you have to teach us today. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight the last panelist who we did not highlight. Dr. Natasha is a board certified pediatrician and a colleague of mine, and she'll be part of the panelists assisting us with questions. And so I just wanted to highlight her before we start. Thank you, Dr. Natasha. All right, and I will go to sharing my screen and we will begin our presentation. Okay, thank you guys very, very much for being part of this talk today. My name is Dr. Dieter, and I'm a board certified internist as well as a board certified pediatrician. And I want to start by asking us this question: why are we so sick today? And the answer is simpler than you think. It is because we eat in ways that harm our body's natural biology. You see, food is supposed to be medicine, and in the same light, food can be poison. And unfortunately, it's the latter to many of us. Food is poison to us. We eat in ways that affect two key systems in our biology. And in today's day and age, the main reason why we're sick today could boil down to these two systems: how our body makes energy and how our gut functions. These two things are the reason why we have the modern day non-communicable diseases. 20, 30, 40 years ago in Africa, the number one cause of death used to be infectious diseases. It's no longer the case. Now, the number one cause of death in Africa is no longer the tuberculosis, the malaria, the typhoid. They're the non-communicable diseases, the diabetes, the heart failure, the strokes. And why is that? It's because of these two main entities. And what I would like to do is I want to go through each of these to show you how each of these cause our modern day illnesses. So let's start with the very first, how the body makes energy. How the body makes energy is dependent on the hormone insulin. Insulin is a very critical hormone in our body. It is the most important hormone. In fact, there is no hormone that trumps insulin. Why is insulin the most critical hormone in our body, the most important? Because insulin sits central at helping the body make energy. And how does insulin do that? When you eat, every time you eat, the end product of what you have eaten is the release of glucose into the blood after absorption has occurred. And insulin's job is to mobilize that glucose out of the blood into the cell. Now, when that glucose gets into the cell, there is a special organelle in our cell here called the mitochondria. You may remember in your junior biology classes that the mitochondria was called the powerhouse of the cell. Why? Because it's an energy factory. So the glucose, when it's shunted into the mitochondria, it goes through a complex series of reactions called the electron transport chain and spits out an energy molecule called ATP. And ATP just simply stands for adenosine triphosphate. That is an energy molecule. So that is how insulin secures the body's energy needs. Why is this important? Because every cell in the body requires energy to function. The smallest entity of the body is a cell that groups up to form tissues, that groups up to form organs, that group up to form systems, that then forms the whole human. And every single cellular entity in the body requires energy to function. The simplest definition of a disease is a group of cells, tissues, organs, or system that has stopped functioning well, that has malfunctioned because it doesn't have the energy that it needs to function well. Simplest definition of a disease. So you can see how important insulin in securing the body's energy needs is now. Now, there is something when insulin is not able to secure the body's energy needs, when there is a breakdown in this process of insulin securing the body's energy needs, we call that breakdown insulin resistance. Okay? A breakdown in insulin not being able to secure the body's energy needs, insulin resistance. Now, why does that happen? Why and how does that happen? That's what I want to go through right now. You see, in today's day and age, we are consuming about 35% more calories than you and I, our ancestors, consumed 100, 200, 300 years ago. And that is a problem. Why? Because this is, if we're consuming 35% more calories, what that means is that insulin has to do this job 35% of the time. Insulin is the most important hormone, like I said, and I call insulin the CEO, the most important hormone because it's doing this energy securing the body's energy needs like that. When insulin is working well as the CEO of the body, things function smoothly. So when you have that breakdown that we call insulin resistance, it's happening because of the excess calories that we are consuming. Just to put things in perspective, they say that in a single can of a soda, there is more sugar in a single can of a soda than you and I, our ancestors, would have consumed their whole life while they were alive. We're taking that in one single can, inundating our insulin with work. Also, we're eating so many times a day. You know, we eat three main meals a day and then snack throughout the day. They say in the West, I don't know what it is in Africa, but in the West, they say the average man is eating 11 times a day. We are grazing continuously like cows on a ranch or eating like vultures in between meals. And what that happens is contributing to these excess calories. Every time you bring in calories, what's going to happen is insulin is going to have to be called to come to work to process those calories. So imagine if you had a job and your employer now told you you need to work 35% overtime every day. You're gonna get burned out. And when you get burned out, what's going to happen? Your efficiency decreases, your productivity decreases. So, what has happened because we're consuming so much calories compared to our ancestors? Our ancestors maybe ate about a meal and a half a day. Some estimates even said they ate a meal a day. Uh, when you are now consuming that much calories and insulin is asked to come to work 35% over time, it gets burned out. When insulin gets burned out because you have worked it as a horse, it could no longer be productive in securing the body's energy needs. You have that breakdown now, and we say you have insulin resistance. When you have insulin resistance, all the processes, the cells that need energy to function can no longer function. They malfunction. Remember, I defined the disease as a group of cells, tissues, organs, or system that has malfunctioned because it doesn't have the energy it needs. When you have insulin resistance, you cannot produce this end product of ATP energy. The cells that need it cannot work. You now develop diabetes, obesity, PCOS, heart disease. Many of these modern day illnesses coming from the fact that you do not have energy, ATP. Now, if that's the problem, how do you fix the insulin resistance problem? How do you fix it? And I want to show you a very simple solution. A simple solution called the Feel-Great system that can help fix the insulin resistance problem. Before that, I want to go in here and explain to you just a little bit how you develop the insulin resistance. Let's talk about it a little. We develop the breakdown in insulin resistance in a two-step process. First, you have too much fat, which leads to a second issue, too much insulin. This is how you develop insulin resistance, and I'll explain it. So cell is normally supposed to look like this. When we consume too much calories than we're supposed to consume, a normal cell looks like this. The body is going to take the excess calories and convert those excess calories into fat and stores the fat into this cell, into the cell. So the cell now looks like this. And that is fat in the cell. So I call this a fat-laden cell. Now, that's a problem because normally the job of insulin is that when you have glucose in the blood, insulin will move that glucose into the cell. This normal cell, insulin can move the glucose in there. This cell, which is fat laden, when insulin comes and knocks at the door of this cell to tell the cell, let glucose in so that it could make energy for the body. The cell says, I'm sorry, there is no room in the inn. If I were to open my doors to let glucose in, glucose will have no place to lay its head. So the cell that is pregnant with fat doesn't let glucose in. When the cell doesn't let glucose in, it cannot run glucose through the energy factory, the mitochondria, to produce energy. You have a deficiency of energy, insulin resistance, that then causes your disease processes. So that's the first way in which you develop insulin resistance, too much fat, okay? Now, what that does is that results in a second process, what I call checkpoint 2. This is checkpoint 1, where you now develop too much insulin. When glucose cannot enter the cell, that glucose is going to accumulate in the blood because it has nowhere to go. I want you guys to understand that there's a one-to-one relationship between glucose concentration and insulin production. So when glucose goes up, it's going to cause the pancreas, trigger the pancreas to now produce too much insulin. Okay, too much insulin. And too much insulin is not good. Too much insulin is like us. Remember I described insulin to be the CEO. Too much insulin is like a CEO of a company who had been running the company smoothly, who one day he comes to work and he has gone crazy. He's backing out on reasonable demands to his employees. He's saying, you're going to do it my way or the highway. He's firing employees for no good reason. When you have somebody like that who initially was respected by the company, CEO, ran the company smoothly, he comes to work one day and he's a tyrant and a bully. He loses his respect for he loses the respect that his employees have for him. If I have a boss who all of a sudden becomes tyrannical, I'm not going to respect that boss anymore. And when you don't respect your CEO boss, it's hard for you to want to do something for them, right? If I don't respect somebody, it's hard to do something for them. So you translate that to the cell. When insulin is running high, insulin has become a bully and a tyrant to the cell, because when the glucose concentration goes high, pancreas has to produce a high amount of insulin to compensate for that. That high amount of insulin is like a bully to the cell, bullying the cell, telling the cell, yelling at the cell, you're going to do things my way, this way. And the cell doesn't take kindly to that bullying. When the cell doesn't take kindly to that bullying, it loses its respect for insulin. When insulin now tells the cell, open your doors this wide, so I can let glucose into the cell is reluctant and opens its doors this wide because it doesn't respect insulin. Okay? If the door is this wide, the implications of that is that less glucose is going to enter the cell. If less glucose enters the cell, it means more glucose remains in the blood, right? More glucose will remain in the blood. And if less glucose enter the cell, it means that there is less glucose to go through the mitochondria, which will make less energy. But let's concentrate on the more glucose that remains in the blood, accumulates in the blood. It's going to be a trigger for the pancreas to produce even more insulin. And even more insulin is like going from fry pan to fire. It's like the CEO who was crazy at this level who becomes even crazier. Translate that to the cell. Insulin at this level rises up to even a higher level. The cells lose even more respect. So you have a vicious process. But this presents us two opportunities where we can address to reverse the insulin resistance problem. This is how you develop insulin resistance. Now, we can fix this problem by going to try to address checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. And I want to talk to you guys about this product called the Feel Great system, which helps to address insulin resistance by addressing checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. There are two products in the Feel Great system. What's the Feel Great system is? It's a nutraceutical product made 100% from plants and is standardized. And the two products in it are a product called Unimate and another product called Balance. I want to talk to you individually how these two products help to reverse the insulin resistance problem. The very first product called Unimate is made from a plant native to South America called the yerba mate plant. And this plant is rich in a special phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid. And chlorogenic acid has two properties. The first property is that it causes the body to produce GLP-1. GLP-1 is glucagon-like peptide 1 hormone that is common in drugs like Ozempic, Mounjaro, what have you. The second property of this natural plant-based product is that it causes the body to burn fat. Okay, so fat burning. So how are we going to use these two properties, GLP-1 production and fat burning, to be able to reverse insulin resistance? So Remember, I said one of the reasons why we're insulin resistant is we're eating 35% more. We need to go back to simulating how our ancestors did. Our ancestors ate a meal and a half a day. We're not consuming a lot of calories. We're eating 3 meals a day and then snacking throughout the day. So, what we need to do is to eat in a way that is healthy, that is not causing our insulin to work too much. Now, what this does is that the GLP, the Unamate with its GLP-1 property helps you to fast. We want you to begin to simulate how our ancestors ate. So we recommend that you fast for 16 hours. So you eat 2 meals a day. Okay, instead of eating 3 meals a day and eating so many multiple times between the meals, go down to 2 meals a day. Why is that? If insulin got burned out because insulin was working 35% over time, it got burned out. The way insulin, when you get burned out from a job, the way you recuperate from that burnout is rest. So if you're rested, you're going to recuperate. So insulin has done the job of securing the body's energy needs 35% more than it needed to and has gotten burned out. We want it to rest. And what intermittent fasting does, intermittent fasting, which I'll abbreviate as IF, it gives insulin a chance to rest. So we want you to no longer eat breakfast and eat just lunch and dinner. Okay. And this product, what it's going to do is when you sip on it, I'm drinking it right now. When you take little sips of it, it's going to cause the blood body to produce its own GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1 hormone. This is a hormone naturally produced by your gut cells, goes to the hunger center of your brain. There's some people who are not able to fast for 16 hours without feeling like World War III is about to start. This makes fasting seamless because when GLP-1 is produced, GLP-1 goes to the hunger center of your brain and keeps the hunger center of your brain quiet so you don't feel hungry. So you can go through breakfast without feeling hungry. So let's say you're eating dinner at 7 p.m. and you go to bed and you wake up at 7 a.m. You've already been fasting for 12 hours. We just want to extend your fast by another 4 hours to 16 hours because the longer you're fasting, the longer glucose is low in your blood. The longer glucose is low in your blood, there is no need for the boss to call insulin, that insulin you need to come to work. So insulin can recuperate from its 35% burnout. So that's the GLP-1 producing property that just helps to rest your insulin. When your insulin rests, it could now become an effective employee again. The other aspect of this product called Unimate is that it causes intrinsic fat burning. This active phytonutrient in it causes intrinsic fat burning. Now, how is that of importance? Going back to how we developed insulin resistance, checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. If this product, when you consume it, causes fat burning, look at how you developed insulin resistance. This cell was filled with fat. So when you sip on this, when it starts causing fat burning, it causes this cell to now go to looking like this. Fat burning occurs. I'll put right here fat burning. And the cell now looks like this. When the cell now looks like this, it's now back to status quo, the normal cell. It can no longer give the same excuse to insulin that I don't have room in the inn to take up glucose. So that glucose that had accumulated in the blood because it could not get into the cell can now go into the cell. When it goes into the cell, you can run it through the mitochondria to make energy, restoring the body's energy needs. Now, what that happens when you go from here to here, you have taken care of checkpoint 1. And because checkpoint 1 resulted in the problem of checkpoint 2, when the glucose concentration that was high when glucose enters the cell, the glucose concentration in the blood is now going to drop. When the glucose concentration in the blood drops, a message is going to be sent to the pancreas. Give us a low amount of insulin. We no longer need that high insulin in the blood. Glucose is low. So the pancreas now shifts to producing a low amount of insulin. And a low amount of insulin is like a CEO that was crazy that returns to earth. He comes to work and he calls an in-service to his employees and says, I have been a bad boss for the last 3 months. I am sorry, please forgive me. If your boss comes to you and gives you that humble apology, you are touched by his humility. You forgive your boss. When you forgive your boss, you gain your respect back for the boss. When the boss asks you, jump, you then ask the boss, how high? You translate that to the cell. When insulin begins to run low, right? Insulin has come to the cell and say, I'm sorry, I've been a bad CEO. Please forgive me. The cell regains its respect back for insulin. When the cell regains its respect back for insulin, when insulin asks the cell, open your doors this wide, the cell says, I'll be happy to. And so you reverse checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. That's how this product helps to reverse insulin resistance. The second product in this nutraceutical is fiber. And fiber is very important for causing your insulin to rest to reverse insulin resistance. This product called Balance is made out of is fiber taken from 7 different plants. Now, how does fiber cause your insulin to rest? Fiber helps to reverse checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2. Fiber causes fat burning. It causes your cells to get rid of the fat. And as a result, resolves checkpoint 1 and resolves checkpoint. So fiber does exactly the same thing that Unamate does. 2 is better than 1. If you have 2 people doing a job, they will do that job, better than just 1 person doing that job. So fiber is huge important in resting our insulin. That's one thing. But the other thing that fiber does, which is a bit different from this, it still boils down to helping to rest your insulin, but it does it in a different way. Fiber helps to bring down your glucose levels. What I mean is decreases your glycemic index. How is that? If let's say you and I ate a bowl of something rich in fiber, something rich in carbohydrate, maybe I ate a bowl of pap that is native to South Africa and probably East Africa and the greater part of Africa. Let's say that's you and me. We're both given a bowl of pap by our grandmothers. You eat that bowl of pap, which is high in carbohydrates, without fiber. Your blood sugar will do this. And that blood sugar for you may be a blood sugar of 160. For me, I eat that same bowl of pap, my blood sugar is going to, but what I do different is I consume the fiber product in the balance, and then I eat the exact same bowl of pap. My blood sugar is going to do this. And that blood sugar for me may be a blood sugar of 80. We've both consumed the same quantity of pap, which is high in carbohydrates, but I have a lower blood sugar profile than you. Why? Because fiber slows the transit of food through the GI tract. When the transit of food through the GI tract is slower, absorption, of course, slower, release of glucose into the blood is slower. The opposite when there is no fiber. So because your blood sugar has gone up to 160, your pancreas is going to have to produce a commensurate higher amount of insulin to deal with that blood sugar of 160. So for you, your pancreas is going to produce 20 units of insulin. Okay. For me, because my blood sugar has only gone up to 80, my pancreas is going to produce a commensurate lower amount of insulin to deal with that blood sugar of 180. So for me, my pancreas may produce 5 units of insulin. So I want to explain it to you guys in these two ways. If insulin is burnt out because insulin has worked 35% over time, it's good to rest insulin. So by you having 20 units of insulin, you're calling more insulin to come to work. By me having 5 units of insulin, I am calling less insulin to come to work. If I'm calling less insulin to come to work, it means more insulin is resting. The more insulin rests, the more insulin recuperates from its burnout. The last thing is a high amount of insulin is like the crazy CEO that the employees don't respect, and a low amount of insulin is like the humble CEO that the employees respect. That's what fiber does to help reverse this. Now, I want to go to the second thing, how the gut functions, because remember I said there are two reasons why we're sick. So we've talked about insulin, how the body makes energy, how it relates to that. We've talked about the problem and we've talked about the solution. Now, I want to talk about the problem of how the gut functions, and we'll do the same thing and talk about the solution. So, the gut functions is dependent on a population of bacteria in our gut. You see, in our gut, you may not know it, but there is a population of about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria in the gut. They have a special name called the microbiome. And what they do is they maintain the health of the gut. And this bacteria population exists in a 50-50% proportion. 50% of them are what we call bad bacteria, the other 50% are good. This balance is important for the functions of the gut. Our gut plays our gut plays very important metabolic functions for us. And one of the functions of our gut is to help to shape and regulate the immune system. This may come as a surprise to you, but 70% of our body's immune system resides in the gut. The other 30% resides in the bone marrow, the lymph nodes, the lymphatic. And your gut helps to train your immune system. When your gut is healthy, it tells your immune system, defend Dr. Dieter against this bacteria. When your gut is not healthy, it tells your immune system to attack your body. So instead of my immune system defending me, my immune system now becomes a terrorist and begins to attack me. Now, there is something called gut imbalance. And gut imbalance is a scenario where the bad bacteria outnumber the good bacteria, where you lose the 50-50% proportion. So the bad bacteria may increase in number to say 70%, and the good bacteria decrease in number to say 30%. When you have gut imbalance, it compromises the multiple functions of the gut. Now, what causes gut imbalance? Gut imbalance is caused by the shortage of food. Now, a shortage of food? Wait a minute, doc. You just said some slides ago that we are consuming 35% more calories than our ancestors did. So what do you mean by the shortage of food? Well, it's the shortage of a particular type of food, fiber. You see, every living organism, it doesn't matter if that living organism is a lion in the jungle or a bacteria in your gut, needs nutrients to survive. And the food for the bacteria in our gut is fiber. Unfortunately, we are not consuming enough fiber. Our foods are so processed these days. We're eating foods that our ancestors, if they were alive today, will not recognize as food. Because we are not consuming enough fiber, there is shortage of food for this bacteria. Every time there is shortage, it sets into motion crisis and survival of the fetus. In that crisis and survival of the fetus, the bad and good bacteria put on gloves to dwell it out. And the bad bacteria, the stronger bacteria, they win the fight and they win the survival of the fetus fight. When they do, they say, you know what? There's only little food. It's not enough for us, the bad guys and the good guys. to keep a monopoly on this food, let's increase our army so that we can keep a hold on this food. They now do so at the expense of the good bacteria. When you have that, we say you have gut imbalance, and the functions of the gut are now compromised. And when that happens, you begin to develop illnesses like this Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease, where the immune system is actually attacking the body instead of protecting it. Multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune disease, lupus, an autoimmune disease, celiac, an autoimmune disease. And there are many other disease entities here that come as a result of the gut imbalance. And now, colon cancer is now strongly linked to gut imbalance and deficiency of fiber. I want to highlight these two diseases at the end, anxiety and depression, because I found this interesting when I learned this science 3 years ago that anxiety and depression are principally the result of gut imbalance. I didn't know that. You see, there is a hormone called serotonin. Serotonin is what I call a happy hormone. It maintains our mood and happiness. And 90% of that hormone is produced in the gut. The other 10% of that hormone is produced in the central nervous system. So when the gut is unhealthy, the factory cannot produce its product. You're now reliant on 10% to maintain mood and happiness. No wonder you have anxiety and depression. So, how do you fix this? The problem of gut imbalance is fiber. Now, how do you fix the gut imbalance problem? Again, we go back to the feel great system. The balanced product of the feel great system is made out of fiber taken from 7 different plants. So just by giving the gut enough fiber, you now have enough food for the bad guys and the good guys. It eliminates the infighting and it restores that 50-50 balance. And when it does, then the functions of the gut that were initially compromised go back smoothly. And I will end by saying that as much as there is evidence that today our modern day diseases are the result of these two entities, while we are sick, there is now sufficient evidence that if you could fix the insulin resistance and fix the gut imbalance, you can reverse the disease condition because these two things cause an energy shortage. Now, I like to give this analogy of driving a car and running out of petrol. When you run out of petrol, which is the fuel source, that car is going to stop. The car doesn't stop because of intrinsic failure of the engine. It stops because it has run out of its energy source. If you were to go to a petrol station and you bought petrol and came back and put in your car, that car is going to start again because you have restored its energy source. It is that simple but so profound. These are modern day diseases that we have today are simply the result of an energy deficiency coming from these two things. And if we can reverse that energy deficiency by addressing those two things, just like that car started again, you could reclaim your health again and those diseases can disappear. And I say the Feel Great system is a wonderful tool that as a physician, I have found to be of big utility in helping me help as many people begin to take back their health from diabetes, from high blood pressure, from high cholesterol, from overweight, from sleep apnea, and the list goes on. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Esther Gare. I'll spotlight you to take it from here.
As Dr. Ngare is setting up, let's give Dr. Dida a round of applause, please. Let's use our reaction buttons. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Dida. So, as Dr. Dieter said, these products are helping so many of us and many other people that we have informed, from families to patients to anybody around us that will listen. Because one of the things that you find is that when you've experienced what we experienced taking this protocol, you just have no choice but to share it with people out there. I know the first time I heard about it and I heard that it was called the Feel Great System, I wondered, who names a system the Feel Great System? Like I thought it was a cheesy name, but what I find more and more as I talk about it, and when people ask me, how does it make you feel? I feel that I find that I do use the word I feel great so many times. So, it is definitely, the right word. It's definitely the right name for this. So this is just a collage of the many people who've, agreed to share their pictures. And this is in no way the exhaustive list. So that is me. This was 5 months apart using the protocol. I decided to wear the same dress just for effect. This time now, this is about 13 months out from when I started. This dress does not even fit me, so it is in the donation pile because I have lost much more weight. But beyond losing weight was also the other health benefits. I was severely insulin resistant at this point. At the beginning, my fasting insulin was 57.5. The optimal is supposed to be below 5 when you're fasting. Within 3 months of taking this, I was down to 2.5, and it has remained there since then. And of course, with many other changes, I am in the perimenopause phase of my life, and a lot of those conditions, the fatigue, the mood swings that I had, all those are a thing of the past. This is Dr. Dieter. So the first picture there, Dr. Dieter wearing black. And a lot of people ask us this question. So, but I fast, I do intermittent fasting, and I work out. Well, that was Dr. Dieter doing all that. Fasting for a period. He had been fasting, doing intermittent fasting for 5 years, and had been running maybe 3 times a week. And that is
Correct.
what it got him to. Well, 2 months on this protocol, and definitely, I mean, he's a new man, looking at him in the lighter jacket there, a new man. So yes, even when you're doing all the right things, there is something that this system helps unlock in you being able to use energy more efficiently and burn the excess fat that you don't need. This is Dr. Dieter's sister. As I said, when you find something that works for you, why not share it with, the people that you love the most? This is Dr. Dieter's twin sister, and you can see the same thing with her. Lost a lot of weight, and I'm sure a lot of other health benefits. I think her smile is even different in the 2 pictures. Then this is Jim Grazer. He's one of us. I mean, you can see the belly fat. The A1C there starting from 12.2. At the time this picture was taken, it was 5.2. I believe I have had Jim updates that now his A1C is in the about 4.8. And this is very key because what the lab tells us is that you should start worrying about your A1C when it is 5.7 and above. But really, a lot of damage happens when your A1C is between 5.1 and 5.6. They actually say over 47% of cardiac arrests happen in people with a normal A1C. And a normal, we mean that between 5.2 and 5.6. So even with that A1C there, that should not be our goal. We should try as much as possible and lower that to below 5. This is a collage here, but I want to talk about Richard. Richard here in the middle. Richard had a severe gout for years to the point that it was damaging his kidneys. Richard had had 3 episodes of congestive heart failure exacerbation. Last time he had to be resuscitated, and he thought, this was it. He was beginning to have end-of-life conversations with his wife. And literally, he started this protocol the last week of August this last year. He could barely move at that point, because of the gout. in his joints and was thinking about maybe using even a wheelchair or a cane. So that was the last week of August. The first week of November, as as all teammates and part of the company, we had what's called a Spartan race, which is an obstacle race. Richard participated in that. Was he jumping over things? No, but he walked the whole 3-mile distance, which is something he could not do back in August. And one of the things he says was that this last Christmas, he was actually able to hang ornaments on his Christmas tree, something that he had not done because he could not bend his fingers because of gout. And right now he's already lost much more weight. He had been on the highest dose of Ozempic, not much weight loss, but now he's off his Ozempic, he's off his allopurinol, which is the gout medicine, and a lot of other medications following. Keith is one of us here. He's on the panel. Keith, diabetic for over 25 years, eye problems, kidney problems, and most importantly, a diabetic foot ulcer that got him septic to the point that he was so sick and had to be resuscitated. Well, 2 days on this protocol and Keith came off 180 units of insulin. Just think about that. 180 units of insulin that he did not need because he injected his insulin based on what blood glucose he found. He did not need that in 2 days. But this is what, I know I didn't warn you, but this is dramatic. How many people do we know who are struggling with diabetic foot ulcers? And we know the burden of this. People cannot work because of the pain. People, they're always going to hospitals. They cannot even take themselves. It has to be a whole community effort. But in January 2025, we're not even talking things from the past. Just this last year, that was Keith's foot. After going through the conventional treatment, the hyperbaric chamber and everything, that is what we got to. But 3.5 months on the Feel Great system, and this is what we have. And I have seen Keith. I see him walking normally without any problem. So this to me is something that just speaks to me and tells me that we are onto something here. I want you to look at everybody's faces here. There's something that happens when we are chronically inflamed. We carry so much, not just fat, but also fluid in our, in our bodies. And you see it most in the faces because you see when people lose the weight, it comes off even their faces. You stop having this almost like swollen look to your face. This is an ex-NFL player. He had psoriasis. You see the weight loss here. But psoriasis is one of those autoimmune diseases, as Dr. Dieter talked about. You fix your gut, you take care of a lot of these autoimmune diseases. Psoriasis is one of those medical conditions that makes people take those medications that here sometimes cost about $6,000 a dose. He does not have to deal with that because of the system. Ro, when she did her first A1C, the machine did not even know what to read. It was about 14. A few months on this, it was down to 5.9, and you can see the difference in the way she looks. But on top of that, now her A1C is further down right to where we want it. This again, a collage of several pictures there. This is Cody, lost 52 pounds on the protocol, and it also, changed his whole life there. This guy lost 155 pounds. That's a whole puzzle. Reverse type 2 diabetes, cholesterol, blood pressure, triglycerides are all normal. He's off his medications. Acne. We call this bacne because it's really on the back, but many people are struggling with acne, even, not just the hormonal teenage acne, but even into their adulthood. 6 months on the Feel Great system. Again, that chronic inflammation dissipated, and now you don't have the severity and the scarring that was being caused by this acne. 60 pounds down, fatty liver disease. We are now finding fatty liver in even 3-year-olds, and this is not an issue for this guy anymore. Sleep apnea does not need to use a CPAP machine anymore. And our very own Dr. Natasha, dealing with a lot of gut issues in the first picture, a few months on the Feel Great system. She's a new lady right there. This is someone that lost what, 320 to 254. That's close to 70 pounds.
That's John,
That's
and he was
John.
the type 2 diabetic also for about 25 years, and he's no longer a diabetic.
No longer diabetic.
Yeah.
These are things that we didn't think could be reversed. And, we're seeing it working on children. I know I give the balance to my children who are 7 and 11. And I know Dr. Dieter also gives some to his children.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we find is that fiber is so deficient in our diets, and we have seen the importance of fiber. So giving it to them, you're helping establish that healthy gut microbiome, which, will protect them from a lot of diseases from, the kinds of diets that they're exposed to. Again, what I talked about the face, look at that difference. That's the same woman, and I think this was about 3 months apart. Look at that couple, completely new people again, weight loss and a lot of other health changes. Type 1 diabetes. Now, what happens over a long time with type 1 diabetes is that, yes, the problem was lack of insulin to begin with, but with the treatment and, lifestyle, eventually these people actually become insulin resistant too. So, starting on this protocol, she lost 35 pounds and reduced her insulin intake by 79%. Joint pains gone, a lot of energy, and, again, hasn't felt this great in 10 years. Down 70 pounds, reversed diabetes, lowered cholesterol, better triglyceride numbers. Now, I like this picture of Cody, and that's why I've highlighted it there, because when you lose weight with many other systems, what happens? You lose muscle, you have sagging skin, and now you need to go look for a plastic surgeon to do a little nip and tuck here and there. But this is what happens with this system. What you lose is fat, because your body becomes a fat burning machine. You do not lose muscle. If anything, you actually accentuate your muscles. So you don't find any sagging skin. You don't find that you need to go under the knife for anything. This is Beatrice. Beatrice is another daughter of the motherland, and that is her, again, August 2025, and that's just 5 months later. And I have seen her more recently, and she looks much different. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Esther, thank you so much. I'm going to bring Keith on, if that's okay, for Keith to share his story, and then we can take some questions. All right, Keith, we showed you a picture of your diabetic foot wound and shared your story of you being a diabetic. Tell us what life was before and how this simple system and this simple solution has given you back your life.
Thank you, Dr. Dieter. Yeah, I was type 2 diabetic for 25 years on that hamster wheel of medication and insulin, and nothing made me feel better. I steadily got worse until 2018, when I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder that destroyed my nervous system and left me unable to walk. Which it also left me with wounds that wouldn't heal. Obviously, you saw that one picture. That was my third foot wound that I had, and obviously the worst. And nothing, I mean, they took forever to heal. And that one obviously didn't heal very well at all under the normal treatments. But that foot ulcer went septic in June or January of 25. 2 days before my daughter's gender reveal party to find out I was getting a grandson, which I didn't even find out for a couple weeks after the party because I was in the hospital and literally died on the day of that party. She got the phone call half an hour later that I wasn't going to make it, and she had to get to the hospital. And when I finally got better and got out of the hospital, I knew I had to do something. I didn't know what it was. I started educating myself. I started learning, and I stumbled across this protocol on TikTok of all places. And when I did that, I started watching because I was skeptical. I set up all my doctor's visits, you know, when I ordered the protocol right after my grandson was born in June. I set up all my doctor's visits for the week before my 90 days because I was pretty sure I was going to prove him wrong. And it didn't take long. On day number one, my energy was through the roof, and I hadn't had energy like this in probably 20 years. And day two, like Dr. Esther said, I was off 108 units of insulin. And that's the only thing I got rid of on my own because I was checking my blood sugar 4 and 5 times a day. And in the first 2 weeks, my depression was gone, and I had no idea how depressed I truly was until it wasn't there. At the end of 60 days, all doctor approved, I was off 14 medication, down 65 pounds, 8 inches on my waist. Um, on day 90 or by day 90, I had seen all my doctors. I was off all 15 medication, all my insulin. My eye doctor said he hadn't seen my eyes look this good in over 4 years. And I was getting injections in both eyes for bleeding retinas. My cardiologist, I said I no longer have AFib, and there was no concern that it was going to come back. My foot doctor couldn't believe his eyes that he was looking at the same foot that he'd looked at 6 months earlier, and even 3 months earlier when it was still in the infancy stages of healing. And it it gave me, I've been on the protocol now for 8 months, and I'm down just short of 100 pounds, 15 inches on my waist. My A1C went from a 7.5 to a flat 5 as of like a week or so ago. Um, I've never felt more alive. My daughter and I were planning end of life stuff that has been sidelined. We haven't even looked at it or talked about it in 9 months. So, I like to tell I got to spend some time with my grandson right before Christmas. And when he was born, I could barely walk. And by walk, I meant pretty much a knee scooter. And we got to push around. I got to push him around grocery stores and department stores in a shopping cart, making race car noises, leaving my daughter in the behind us. And we had the time of our lives. And I truly believe that I would not be here right now had this system not reversed my life. And it's so insanely simple that I wish I'd have known about it 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And I just I am so thankful for Dr. Dieter sharing his information, his knowledge, Dr. Esther, and so many more that this truly gave me hope for the future. And I'm looking forward to seeing my grandson graduate high school. And he's only one, by the way, not even one. He's 8 months old. And so I've got big plans for the future. Finally.
Keith, Keith, thank you very much for sharing your story and That's why we do this. You see, Keith, just like you, a lot of people don't know that this disease is irreversible. As a doctor, I had no clue this was reversible. I never got taught this in medical school. I was taught to be tunnel vision. You think diabetes, you just throw insulin on it. You think metformin, you think diabetes, you just throw metformin on it. You think high cholesterol, you just throw Lipitor on it. We were never taught as doctors that these diseases were rooted in reversible causes. We were
Yeah.
intentionally taught to just go for the prescription, prescription, prescription. And
Yeah.
there's so many people out there who want to experience true and lasting health. I will ask the question here. If you had a chronic illness and you had a chance to reverse the root cause and get off medications rather than remain on medications for the rest of your life, will you just comment in the chat root cause? So if I as a doctor had no clue that these diseases were rooted in root causes, how much more will the common man have a clue? So our system is designed not to train us professionals, doctors, to know that these are rooted, in reversible conditions. So this is why we're doing this. There are many of us doctors and non-doctors now taking this message out. And I want to thank you guys very much for sharing your testimony, and that's why we're doing this. I want to, Dr. Catherine, highlight Dr. Festus to be able to share something he just told me today. I want him to talk about, thank you. I want him to talk about a testimony he told me about a sickle cell person. And I want us to hear this because sickle cell is an illness that a lot of us in a lot of us of African descent suffer from. And Dr. Festus, if you can turn your camera on, please, I would love you to share this testimony because many of us of African descent abroad and in Africa suffer from sickle cell. And this can give you hope to the many people who are suffering from sickle cell. Yes, sickle cell is a genetic condition that cannot be reversed, but there is a possibility to get a significant amount of relief. So, Dr. Festus, I'm going to highlight you. Dr. Festus is a pharmacist, and he has his own story. If you want to share your own story of what this has done for your health before sharing with me, sharing with us the story of the sickle cell patient you told me about today, please go forward.
Yes, yes, Dr. Dida. I am very thrilled, always very excited. Actually, when I started this protocol, the first day I took it, it was awesome. Literally, I used to drink like Starbucks espressos, like 3 cans a day to be able to power my 14 hours in the pharmacy. With this protocol, that first day till date, I have not needed to taste coffee. And on this protocol, in 3 weeks, something very important happened to me. Literally, I had obstructive sleep apnea for 12 years, 12 good years. It was not an easy thing. If I needed to travel and go anywhere, I need to have my oral appliance with me. If I missed it, I have to go back, cancel that flight, and go get my oral appliance. That's how important it is. If that is something you wear at night and sleep, so for people who have obstructive sleep apnea, and in 3 weeks on the protocol, that was May 2025 till date, I have not needed to wear it. I feel good, I sleep good, and I get up energetic, and my day is great. Now, this is for me, but this protocol has done excellent. Excellent for me, my family, my father-in-law, everybody, every disease you can think of. Honestly speaking, I can name increasing the kidney functions for my father-in-law. I can name
Your
reversing
father
diabetes
just
for my
had,
mother,
right?
and just many of them. But the sickle cell yesterday, that testimony was so touching to me. And I tell myself, many people in Africa might be going through the same thing. I had this downliner, someone who was on the protocol, and she was always in pain. Someone who has sickle cell will probably relate to this. She was always in pain. She started the protocol, she said, in I think 6 or 7 days. She started feeling something different. And till date, it's almost 2 months, she said, she's not been in pain. And I think that is, to me, I took that so much to heart that I need to go out there as a pastor and keep telling everybody how much this Feel Great system has an impact, how much it can help all of us. Thank you, Dr. Dida, for having me share.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to add to that to say this, that the Feel Great system doesn't reverse sickle cell. I want you guys to understand that. But a lot of the pain that comes from sickle cell is driven by inflammation. And what causes inflammation is gut imbalance. Gut imbalance is the root cause of inflammation. Then insulin resistance is like the petrol that pours it on top of the gut imbalance and worsens the inflammation. So by addressing the gut imbalance and by taking away the petrol, the inflammation calms down and there's a significant improvement in pain. So, Dr. Catherine, I'm going to hand the mic back over to you, and
Yes.
you can whatever panelists in or whatever
Yes,
questions,
absolutely.
and then close us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Dida. Dr. Festus, it's great to have you sharing today with us. We appreciate you. I just want to perhaps share a little bit about how I got to know about any of this. And it's not a testimony as such, it's more the how and the why I got to know about or got to meet Dr. Dida. And all my story starts with everything that Keith shared. So Keith's foot is what my mother suffered from. She passed on in 2007. She never met any of my children, and she had suffered multiple amputations on her feet because she used to get those DFUs. So when I saw, every time I listen to Keith's story, it's very emotive for me. But the most recent wound, emotional wound for me, is that one of my brother. My only brother passed away last year, 4th of August. He had been living with diabetes for over 20 years. He was just getting more and more medication. He was getting worse and worse. And in that entire time, despite the fact that his family, myself included, are highly educated people, we never once got to be told that the condition could be reversed. So you can imagine my pain and my hurt when I discovered post his passing that this is a reality. You can just imagine that. And I want to just share that openly, that mine is a mission, it's a journey of healing. This is all about me trying to heal from this deep loss, which I still believe could have been prevented had I known. And I'm trying to do this now because I want to prevent any one of you guys and the people that you may know from going through the same pain of loss that I'm dealing with. Everything that Dr. Dida talked about and Dr. Esther spoke about in terms of inflammation, excessive pain in my body are things that I dealt with. I've been on the Feel Great system. Maybe Dr. Dida, you can pull up one of my pictures, which is probably about 6 weeks into my journey. I've been on this journey using the Feel Great system since December last year. And when I started on it, I had such excruciating lower back pain, which I had suffered since about 2021, which is now completely gone from my body, completely. I had knee joint pain, which is completely gone from my body as we speak. I have a lot of things that I can talk about. What Dr. Esther spoke about, the mood swings. I mean, those who live with me or live close to me would know that, I mean, I was getting to a point where I was just snapping at people, and it was horrible, and none of that is happening anymore. But what I really, really want to share about is the testimony of a nursing sister here in Johannesburg, because I have had people who approach me who say, oh, maybe you guys coming with these stories of people from the United States that we don't know. How do we know these people are not acting? How do you know these people are not making stories up? So I want to share with you about Sister Margaret. Sister Margaret is a nurse at one of the biggest private hospitals here in Johannesburg. You are more than I can connect you to her. She's been living with high blood pressure. Her numbers used to be, her resting high blood pressure used to read about 153/90. She started on the protocol last month in February, and within 10 days, her blood pressure number dropped to 122/66. Last week, she had been on the protocol for exactly 30 days, and her blood pressure numbers are now reading 119/65. So we definitely do have evidence tested on those of us here on the African continent, because some of you skeptics out there may be thinking that this thing works in the USA and it doesn't work here. We know how our people are, Dr. Dida, right? But yeah. and honestly, the only reason we're doing this is because, for me personally, I saw what happened to my family members, particularly my brother. And for me personally, I have been exposed to having to I have been involved in leading the public health response in one of the countries down here in Southern Africa. So I have been exposed to how poor our health systems are. My brother would probably not be gone if he had had his problems in the United States. I know that for sure. So our mission really by doing this, guys, is to say, hey, let's wake up to the reality that some of these diseases can be managed through sharing knowledge and information. That's what we're doing. So I do have a question for Dr. Esther that I would like her to talk a little bit more about, and that is the issue about skin. One of the things that we have all observed, all the people that have started the protocol here in Southern Africa, every single one of them, in fact, including one of my customers in Australia, has mentioned that within a couple of weeks on the protocol, people's faces just get amazing. They just start glowing. What's going on with the skin, Dr. Esther, and how is that related to the things we are talking about today? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Catherine. That's actually interesting because 3 weeks into me taking the protocol, that's the first thing one of my patients ever mentioned. I wasn't really, I was feeling energetic, but I hadn't really looked at, what was going on with my body. But the first thing a patient mentioned when I walked into the room was she paused, looked at me, and then said, "What are you using on your skin?" Mm-hmm. I actually had to pull out my phone camera to look at and I realized that, yes, something had changed. And I've had so many people tell me, even within a week, that when they wash their face, it doesn't feel as rough as it probably was feeling before. Now, as you saw even in those pictures, our faces do change. When we have insulin resistance and have a lot of sugar in the bloodstream. Now, I just had a call like this, a science call last night, and I talked about that. Whenever we mention the A1C, what we are talking about is how much sugar is attached to the hemoglobin, which is a protein in the bloodstream. Now, the only reason we do the A1C is because that's the easy test to do, because, you can draw blood and go see how much sugar is attached to this protein. Now, that's not the only protein in the body. While that is happening, this sugar is also attached to so many other proteins, and some of them are the collagen and elastin proteins, which are on your body, which are part of your skin and part of joints, and that's why you hear joint pains disappear. That's why you hear, people with arthritis, it gets better. Because once, the same thing that is happening to your A1C is also happening to all the other proteins in the body. And there's a whole list of proteins, including, the crystalline proteins in the lenses, in the eye lenses, which make us get cataracts. So there's a whole list of other proteins that are getting affected while this process is going on. It's not just your A1C. And once you start correcting that, then you start noticing a difference in the skin. There's also a duskiness that happens in the skin because when you are chronically inflamed and have all this sugar, you've also suppressed skin cellular regeneration. So when you start fasting and removing all this sugar, your cells start regenerating. And of course, if they're regenerating the way they should, the optimal regeneration, then you actually start seeing new and glowing skin. It's not the old skin that has refused to regenerate. So there are a lot of things that are happening, and that is what you notice. One of the things I have said is that prior to starting this, and when we talk about cost, we're not just talking about the cost of how much you pay for the product. It's how much you save in other things. I looked at my pictures, and I used to have a budget for Spanx to hold everything in under the dresses to make them look good. And there was also a budget for a facial. I can tell you, I have not had a facial since I started this protocol in January, and have not felt any need, because those things that I wanted them to take care of with the facial, somehow just improving what is going on inside my body, is glowing out on my skin. So there is a lot of saving, some things that we don't think about that are attached to our metabolic health. And once you start seeing the differences, you're like, wow, you mean all that money I was spending on all these little things? It's the same thing, fixing a symptom, fixing a thing that you don't like, but it's all attached to your metabolic health. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Doc. That's a really, really helpful answer. Because yes, it totally happens with every single person, everyone. Yeah. So, Dr. Dieter, I would like you to please address the question of what happens when I stop using the protocol, assuming I do stop, because I guess people are concerned about, will there be any withdrawal symptoms or effects? And along with that, can you talk about any side effects that may be experienced on the protocol? And as you do that, address a question around constipation. There is a comment in here about constipation. So a lot of times when people hear about fiber, they automatically think, oh my God, constipation is going to be a mess. So yeah, can you please talk about that, Doc? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, if you have constipation, that's a sign of gut imbalance. So if you're not taking the protocol right now and you already suffer from constipation, that's a sign of gut imbalance. There's some people, everybody is going to respond very differently. There's some people who have constipation, and when they start taking the product, immediately their constipation resolves. There's some people, their constipation worsens before it gets better. So fiber will cause you to have, I've seen the two spectrums where somebody will bad constipation, start taking it, and immediately it's light and day. And I've seen another person worsen before it gets better. But what happens with fiber is that fiber bulkens the stool. Once you start taking the balanced product, which is rich in fiber, what it's going to do is going to give your colon more fiber than your colon has seen in a long time. Your colon has to acclimatize to that fiber. And during that period of time, some people will experience constipation. The good news is that constipation is transient. Usually people within 2 weeks, it resolves. And we tell people the way you address that period of time is you may just take half a sachet of the balance and drink lots of water for 2 weeks until the constipation resolves. But it's very transient. It's not something that you will always face. Your body acclimatizes or gets used to it very fast. As immediately your body gets used to it, the constipation is gone. The other question about are there any withdrawal symptoms that before I answer that, maybe the side effect of the Unimate. Some people, the Unimate is the plant from which the Unimate is made. The yerba mate plant is a caffeinated plant. So some people experience a caffeine sensitivity. But just like the constipation, in a lot of people, the caffeine sensitivity is also transient and resolves within 2 weeks. Now, there's a small group of people that are extremely, extremely caffeine sensitive. To those people, even 2 weeks of time sometimes may not be enough for them. Those people need to use the decaffeinated product, and which I don't think the decaffeinated product is available in Africa right now. But in the US, those people use the decaffeinated product and dilute it. If you're caffeine sensitive and you're in Africa where the decaffeinated product is not yet available, what you just need to do is use a greater dilution of water. And usually in a space of 2 weeks of doing that, you should see some improvement. Now, are there withdrawals when you stop taking this or what have you? Absolutely not, because this is not a drug. If I eat corn every day and I stop eating corn, am I gonna withdraw from it? The reason I say that is these products are 100% food products. They are made 100% from plants. They have no drugs in it or what have you. So this is essentially food. So if I'm not going to have a withdrawal from not eating a banana, I will not have a withdrawal from stopping this. So now, the other question which I want to address is, what if I get on these products and it helps me to reverse my diabetes, so it helps to reverse my sleep apnea, or it helps to reverse my high cholesterol, or it helps to reverse my blood pressure, whatever the metabolic issue is. What if, okay, I have now reversed my high blood pressure or my diabetes and I want to stop the product? How will my health be going down the road? And I answer the question this way. Uh, um, if you choose to stop the product after attaining your health goal, then you need to resolve to go and living like our great grandparents did 3, 4, 500 years ago. You have to eat like they ate. The reasons why we have that you could remain in perfect health if you eat right for the rest of your life. The reasons why we have these problems is that the foods that we're eating are unrecognizable, to our great grandparents, bombarding our insulin with too much calories for our insulin to get burned out, depriving our gut of food. So, if you were to stop this product, what I tell people to do, if you're able to have the discipline for the rest of your life, to eat food that is 100% natural, 100% animal based, 100% plant based for the rest of your life, you will be fine. Your issues will remain resolved. You will never have these problems again. But that is hard to do because I say the genie is out of the bottle in terms of our modern day foods. It's very hard to live a life going forward that some people can do it. Some people are very disciplined, but it's very hard to live a life going forward that you never eat anything unnatural. A cookie, a biscuit, a pizza or burger or whatever those things which are unnatural will slowly cause you to go back into this energy deficient state, and those diseases will come back. So what I tell people is the beauty about these products, these two products, is you could pretty much live life in this modern food society and consume these products every day and eat what you love to eat without worrying that you're going to get back out of sync. Because what this does, it helps to keep your insulin and your gut working like they should. So I love it because I can still eat my pap, I can still eat my puff puff, I can still eat the things that I love to eat, but just introduce that into my plan. So I have made a conscious decision for me and my family and my kids. This is food. Food is medicine. We have to eat food every day. So why not budget this as part of your food budget so that it should be medicine to you so that you don't have to contend with these illnesses. But is it possible for you to live a disciplined life, a disciplined life by eating 100% natural plants and animal? Yes, it's possible, but it'll take a lot of discipline, and not everybody has that discipline and willpower to do so.
Thank you, Doc. I'm going to ask you to take one last question from me, and we're going to wrap it up. And the question that I like us to always address is the question of people who are already on chronic medication. And a lot of these people, as certainly this part of the world, we're always told that, no, you'll take your medicine in the morning and in the evening, right? So if we are now saying, do not eat in the morning with, don't take breakfast, what does that mean? How are we going to manage taking our medication? Because that is part and parcel of this journey. Guys, we're not saying stop your medication tomorrow. No. Continue with your medication, continue working with your doctors until you get to a better health. So, Doc, please help us understand, how are we going to do this now? Because I need to go tell my dad, and he's going to be like, no, I take my medication at 7 in the morning every day.
Yeah.
And I have to eat.
The good news is that is something that we have been told for a long time, that people just think they have to do, that has no basis in science. Okay, there are many medications that do not need to be taken with food. So many medications. There are very few medications out there that need to be taken with food. And so the way I'll say this is, those medications that need to be taken with food, maybe iron and thyroid medicines. There may be some other ones. Your doctor has to specifically tell you, hey, this medicine needs to be taken with food. And if you have a medicine like that, what you do is you just take that medicine at lunch when you're going to eat, or at dinner when you're going to eat, and take it the same time all the time. But it's important that you rest your insulin for at least 16 hours so that your insulin is efficient in procuring the body's energy needs. And it's easy to do so, at breakfast. Now, you may say, okay, I don't want to miss breakfast. I want to have lunch and dinner, and I want to have breakfast and lunch and start fasting from lunch until. You can do that too, however you want to. But what is more important is that you rest your insulin for at least 16 hours. So you can play with that to say, okay, I'm going to eat my breakfast at this time. I want to eat breakfast and have my medicine. Fine. But you should find a way to fast. If it's going to be eating breakfast and eating lunch, then that should be it. You could take your medicines in that time frame and fast and fast for 16 hours the others. The other option is that many of these medicines do not need to be taken with food. You could just skip breakfast.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I would like to bring this to a close. Dr. Natasha, as I do this, can you please address a question that has just been put in the chat for us about kidney failure, please, because you are our rock in terms of the chat box, and we appreciate you so, so much. So, colleagues, good evening. We are very, very sorry that we have come to the end of this session. These are very exciting sessions that we could probably talk for the next 3 hours, happily so, but we do have to be conscious of time and releasing people to do their work, and those of us down here in the southern tip of Africa, for us to get to sleep, and those in the east as well. So in closing, I just want to say, I think the biggest message, take-home lesson that we take from these sessions is that we need to give our insulin rest. But before I do that, I want to just address a couple of logistical issues or questions. The first is the fact that we do make these recordings available. So if, talk to the person who invited you into this meeting, and they will be able to get a recording to you. The second is, how do you get the product here in Africa? Same story. Please talk to the person who invited you into the call so that they can help you get the product. But otherwise, I am going to say thank you to my panel, and I'm going to then turn it over to Dr. Esther first. She will take it across to Dr. Natasha, and Dr. Dieter will send us off. But until next time, we do this every single Thursday. Until next week, Thursday, I would like to just remind you, give your insulin rest. Thank you so, so much. Dr. Esther, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. In closing, what I would like to say is that, I see on the chat a lot of people asking questions. Will this help me with this? Will this help me with that? Will this help me with the other? What I say is that everything in your body feels worse when you're insulin resistant and you have gut imbalance. As long as your metabolic health, which is really the baseline of your health, as long as that is not right, everything else, whatever else it is that you're dealing with, even if the origin was not metabolic health directly. I mean, you break a leg, you get an injury. It will heal better if your metabolic health is better, if it is optimal. So, yes, everything will improve. Some things maybe not totally reversed, because depending on what it is, but we've seen people lowering their medication dosages, coming off a bunch of medications. A lot of things will get better. I keep saying, take a chance on yourself and believe that life and your health can actually be better than it is today. Take a chance on the health of the people around you. One of the things I say, we are a communal people, and having family and having, having our friends around and healthy is a big deal. For me, it is. I want my family healthy. I don't want them to have a long sickly life. I want them to have a long healthy life. I want my friends to also have a long healthy life, because then we are enjoying life together. So what do you do about that? Talk to your family about this. Invite them to the next call. Let them hear this for themselves. Don't keep this knowledge to yourself. And if you want to join us in this mission, please, of course, talk to the person that invited you and get to see how you can plug in wherever you are in the world. We are, we'll be able to help you get plugged in and start helping your community. Of course, always starting with yourself, because as you can see, part of our passion is because of we use this protocol and we feel great. And so we want everybody around us to feel great. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Natasha. Please unmute.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Catherine and Dr. Esther and Dr. Dieter and everyone else, Keith, for sharing your stories. I'm always amazed, because sometimes you think you've heard it all, and every time we speak, I learn something more and I learn something new. I didn't know some of your stories, Dr. Catherine, and I'm so sorry that you experienced that with your family. And for me, it was my grandmother, and I didn't know, again, I'm the only doctor we're from Haiti, and it's a big deal to be the only doctor in my family to have, to have gone through medical school and through the rigors and all of the things that I had to do to get into medical school and to become a doctor. It's a huge deal. And to think that, being the only doctor in my family from Haiti, I wasn't able to help my grandmother. Now I could have said, well, that's because I'm pediatrics. But if I knew, we've always been very, very much into holistic. My grandmother had a book of healing plants. And so that's the reason why I would say she passed away at 89 years old, which is longer than average because she still ate holistically. She ate mostly, Haitian food, which is starch heavy, but it was not processed mostly. And so the problem is that she was still taking her metformin and her statins and her cholesterol medications, but she was not reversing her diabetes. So it still progressed. And though she died again, at the age what some people would say is advanced, it's just pretty good lifespan. But the last 10 years or so of her life was filled with pain, arthritis. And I think at the end, she had fibromyalgia undiagnosed for her whole life. And so autoimmune diseases, exactly. So essentially, all I'm saying is that if I knew this was only a couple years ago for my grandmother, if I knew that this existed even a few years back, then they could have at least improved the quality of her life, at least at the end, and would have, avoided all of the back and forth between the home care and all of these things that we unfortunately are dealing with at the end of life. And so I mirror your pain that we wish we knew, but there are 7 billion people on this planet. I don't believe that anything is lost. I don't believe that any, story is lost. I believe that sometimes we do, experience the pain. They are the canary in the coal mines, but it will help others who are still alive and who are still able to contribute to society because we're here not just to work and to go to bed and then to do it all over again for 50 years and die. We're here to solve problems. We're here to create impact. We're here to create. We're here to heal. We have so much to do in the world. And yet so many of us are walking around as zombies because we've lost the urge, we've lost the we've lost the drive to do anything in our lives. And so there are people who are so sick and tired that they're sick and tired of even getting the energy to help themselves. And so this is not people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. These are people in their 20s and 30s. And again, as a pediatrics, I can say that I've seen the light come out of teenagers' eyes, sorry, preteens' eyes. It used to be when they're teenagers, they start getting really cynical, but now it's like from the age of 8 and up, I start to see the light kind of going away from their eyes, which is really disturbing. So we need, as a pediatrician, the kids are canaries in the coal mine. We need to save our children. We need to save our parents. We need to save our brothers and sisters because, as you can see, the world is happening and we need people who are light bearers to spread their light, but we can't do it when we're sick. And so thank you so much for this because this is amazing how the trickle down effort occurs when I introduce this to Dr. Dieter. This is what it led to. And now you, Dr. Esther, all of us are spreading the word that there is hope. There is a possibility to not be the way that we've been for the last 10, 15 years, 3 to 4 years. And so thank you so much, Dr. Catherine, for hosting this. Thank you again for your story. Thank you, Dr. Esther, for your passion. And then thank you, Dr. Dieter, for your expertise. I learn every single time I come in here, I learn. So it behooves you to come here multiple times. We are all doctors, and yet we're still learning. So for the regular public, please spread the word. Come back. We have this tomorrow night as well, or excuse me, Sunday night and Monday night as well, if you're able to make it. But thank you so much for being here, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Natasha. Always amazing hearing from you. Keith, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you will do the needful and open it for Dr. Dieter to close us off. Thank you. Over to you.
You don't have to live like I did. I spent 25 years not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't think there was a way out, and nobody led me down that path until 8 months ago, and it changed my world. What would your life look like if you could regain your health, time with your family, time with your friends, and not having to be on that roller coaster of meds and visits and meds and visits and illness? It's worth it. and it comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. You can't argue with that. We've got the information to back it up. And I'll pass it on to Dr. D to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Dr. Natasha, Dr. Esther, Dr. Catherine. Thank you all. And I'll end by saying this is a message of hope. If you've been struggling with your health and had no clue that there is a solution out there, this should be a message of hope. Hope for those struggling with diabetes, hope for those struggling with blood pressure, hope for those struggling with infertility. It is a message of hope. And we want as many people as possible to hear this message of hope. That is our goal. We do not want people to be suffering in darkness when there is light out there. We want to be the light. And so it's our goal that come this 2026, we want to take this message of hope as far to the ends of the earth as we can take them, whether it's East Africa, whether it's Southern Africa, West Africa, all the states in the US, Europe, what have you, a message of hope. We want to touch the lives of at least 100,000 people this year with that message of hope. So if you heard us today, and you're suffering from any chronic medical condition, receive this message of hope. You could reclaim your health again. And if there is somebody in your family that can benefit from this message of hope, pass it on. Pass it on and invite them to our next meeting next Thursday, at this same time. In the United States, we do another meeting like this every Sunday and Monday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The Thursday's meeting will happen at this same time. But we want you guys to collaborate with us. We are looking for people to help us, to lock arms with us, to take this message of hope to as many people as possible. So if you hear this today and that's you, and you want to be one of the messengers of hope, join us, please. Join us in helping as many people reclaim their health. Thank you. Reach out to whoever invited you today. If you want to be part of that message of hope, they can give you, the steps you need to take to join us on this mission. Thank you very much again to my panelists. And thank you all the guests for being here today, honoring this invitation, and good night. Spread this message of hope to as many people. Good night in Southern and Eastern Africa, and good day in the US, and good night in the UK and Europe. Thank you.
Good night and good day. Bye, everyone.